Last week, SUNY's Rockefeller Institute of Government gathered a few of the stakeholders from New York's Adirondack region to comment on a new report identifying challenges in the four-state Northern Forest region. The question that Rob Riley and Joe Short of the Northern Forest Center set out to answer is this one. How do states with rural Northern Forest regions like New York balance conservation and economic development? After several years and consulting with hundreds of stakeholders in each state, Riley and Short issued a report on the subject this fall called Strategy for Economic Resurgence in the Northern Forest. In a nutshell, the report urges the four states studied, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, to market themselves regionally and collaborate on broadband access. Another interesting takeaway, although each of the four states studied has very different policies toward development in the Northern Forests, none of the regions is thriving. Joe Short explains why.
I think the commonalities, I think things that are indeed barriers to success across the region deal with a couple of things. One is this transition, as Rob alluded to, and Todd, you picked up on it as well, the transition away from a small number of large employers to a larger number of small employers, and away from a culture where we hear often in New Hampshire how you would finish high school and walk across the street to the mill and get a job, and you'd work there for the rest of your life and retire. That culture in the region, which was one of the things that tied the Northern Forest together, has changed. And I think there is now a shift in mindset. It does get to creativity and entrepreneurship. There's a need for reinvention here.
Both Todd Shimkus of the Adirondack Chambers of Commerce and Brian Housel of the Adirondack Council agreed with Short's assessment, but had different views on reinvention, a difference made apparent by this exchange about access to broadband service, which the Northern Forest Report is fully behind.
On a generic level, the APA has missed its mandate as per the Adirondack Park Agency Act. The two principal pillars of that were to do comprehensive planning for the Adirondack Park, and that would include both the natural and the economic resources. The second pillar was to enable local planning to be accomplished. So if we have 103 towns in the Adirondack Park, only about 19 have Adirondack Park Agency approved plans. So there's been a disconnect there. The dilemma is that these cell carriers, telecommunications companies, are private corporations, and they don't share their proprietary information about where they're going to put the next tower, nor is there a market that can pay for those services.
Instead of waiting for and blaming the telecommunications companies for not walking in and saying, geez, we see a market and we want to develop, they should have been proactive. They've got an incredibly great GIS system. They can go through and tell us exactly where we would need to install cell towers to provide that type of service.
Each of the four states' Northern Forest regions have several common challenges, including declining population, high energy costs, and stagnant job growth. You can find the report online at this address, northernforest.org/economic-strategy.shtml.